Hello Taurus, and welcome to your August 2021 reading. Be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising for a more well-rounded perspective. And if you're coming to this video after August, a lot of times these messages can be maintained beyond the realm of time, so take what resonates and leave the rest. If you're interested in an extended portion of this reading, I'm offering that for a small fee in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. And let's go ahead and begin. All right, Taurus, we are starting out with the card of pleasure and pain. And I feel that this is talking about, you know, how sometimes you get involved in something and it's, even though you know it comes with risks and it comes with things that are going to be less than pleasant or out of your comfort zone to the point of being unpleasant, potentially even causing pain. That pain, the definition of pain being a bit arbitrary in this context. This is the sort of energy that I'm getting as far as what you are experiencing. Sort of, you feel that it is worth the risk, it's worth the chance, it's worth going through the discomfort because of what you're going to be getting out of it. And this feels very heavily that this is the energy that you have bringing with you from July. This is something that you're entering into August with. It's not so much that you are going to experience this soon as much as it's something that you were already sort of facing. You're sort of looking at the pros and cons and you're evaluating and sort of trying to figure out if it's worth it or not. And this card is basically coming up to sort of summarize what you're experiencing. This is not any sort of criticism, critique, judgment, or even, you know, any sort of message of what you're supposed to do with it. It's just sort of a validation of what you are experiencing, what you're going through. And like I said, you're leaving the month of July, entering into the month of August, and you're really going through this period of going through the pros and cons and trying to figure out if you're correct in your thinking about how the pleasure or the benefits from this scenario, the pros from this scenario or the situation or whatever it is that you're facing or going through, do they indeed outweigh the pain should you continue on this path? And you're basically be letting known that, yes, continue to evaluate this to come to your conclusion. Continue to analyze this from the perspective that you're doing the right thing by looking at it from this perspective. You're actually looking at it with the right sort of eyes by going through this. And if you haven't done that yet, you're being told to do that. Weigh the pros and cons, make a list, do a little circle diagram that has the inner, you know, the portion that crisscross that allows you to kind of have a better perspective of where the balance lies. Does it lie in the pros? Does it lie in the pain? Did the balance outweigh in the pleasure aspect, or does it outweigh in the pain aspect? They're not telling you that the answer through this message as much as they're letting you know the answer is, while you were going through that process of weighing the pros and cons, the pleasure versus pain, you will come to your own conclusion, and then they will continue to guide you once you've managed to come to that conclusion on your own. So really kind of weighing the pros and cons, looking at it, trying to figure it out while you're going through that process. The message that you seek, they will speak to you then, but you need to begin, you need to initiate the communication by first going through this process of looking at both sides of it and how you feel about both sides of that. We're following this card with the time card. I feel like this is letting you know that all things come in time. This is kind of hitting on that aspect of you're not going to be able to rush this. So I feel like that's part of the energy that was coming through when I said that they're not really going to show you specifically the way. This is something that you have to sort of come to your own conclusion. But once you come to your conclusion, once you weigh the pros and cons, once you look at it from the pleasure versus pain and how you feel about both of those aspects, once you do that work, that's when they're going to come to you and speak to you once you've made these sorts of conclusions on your own. But they want you to be self-directed, and as a result of this, it's going to take some time. We usually get into our comfort zones, we get into our safety habits, we get into things that make us feel comfortable and secure, and we do have as a human, when we are living very human lives, when we refer to the human aspect of living this life and having this experience, a lot of times we resist these sorts of chains, and we resist these sorts of messages that may have us do something that we don't necessarily, we perceive we don't want to do, or we don't want to follow through. And so time is a huge factor, because even though the soul or the spirit self might automatically know what it is that we need to be doing, it takes a little bit of time to get us to receive that message in the human aspect of ourselves, and to follow through with the human aspect and the human decision and choices. And ultimately, it's a time factor. This will happen quicker if you sit with yourself and you have this communication with yourself. You go through this pros and cons list with yourself. You can actually speed up this process, but overall it is going to take some time. It is going to take some doing. It's kind of waiting for you to initiate it, so to speak. So this is the overall beginning message as you are transitioning from July into August, whatever it is that you experienced there towards the end of July. The vibrations of that are continuing into August, and this is what you're carrying through as you move into the month of August. We're following this with the 7 of Cups, that concept of options, choices, sort of seeing all the things in front of you and getting to look at it, but also with that is, sometimes when you have what seems like too many options, it's overwhelming. It makes it hard to be able to make that solid decision. I always use, whenever I come to this sort of scenario, I use the reference of, if you're standing at the end of the aisle and you decide you're going to treat yourself with a candy bar that day, or you go to an ice cream shop and you find that this particular ice cream shop has 100 flavors. You're so overwhelmed by all of these options, you almost forget what it is that you like, because then you don't know, do you go with your old tried and true faithful? Do you go with whatever you're in the mood for that day? Do you try something new? It almost gets overwhelming. So as a result of that, we're referring back to that first card, and the second card of time. The process is the process of elimination. Unlike being at the end of at the cash out line where the candy bars are in the store, or standing in front of the ice cream shop, there's no pressure for you to hurry up and make a decision. There's no people behind you waiting for you to hurry up and get out of the way. Whatever it is that you are working at that is requiring you to make a decision, to make a choice, you are promoted, you are given the time to take your time. They're letting you know, take your time with this. Sit with yourself, meditate, go through the list of pros and cons, commune with those in the spirit realm that you have communication with, that helps you with your decision-making process. But ultimately, you do not need to hurry up. You do not need to make this decision quickly. You are allowed to take your time in making this decision, weighing the pros and cons, and even maybe sort of participating a little bit in both aspects, or in the various situations that are presented, so you can kind of get a feel energy-wise, where is this going to go? What's the trajectory of this? If I make this decision, what's the trajectory of this? If I make this other decision, what's the trajectory? If I combine more than one of them, what's the trajectory? But this is something that it takes time for you to be able to enact and envision in your mind, or work out, or work through it. So they're letting you know that if you're feeling overwhelmed, you are permitted to take your time. You are allowed to sit with this. You're allowed to work through this and work with who you need to work with, be it on the spiritual realm or the physical realm, to help you with the decision-making process. But go through it with the mindset that you do not need to hurry with this. You get to take your time with this, whatever it is. We have the Devil card, and I'm being told to leave it in reverse, so I'm letting it stay there in reverse, because you need that you need that imagery of this being in reverse to let you know that you are not being tied back. You are not being held back because you're taking your time. It's all part of the process, and it is all actually going to help you break free from whatever it is that's holding you back. Hurrying through is sometimes when we face the chains that we were initially trying to break. So take the time that you need. Let yourself know that you are not tethered to the situation, and the more time that you take in unraveling this, the more beneficial this is going to be eventually in the long run. But don't feel like you are in some means trapped or bound or tied or held back because you're taking your time, because that is not the case. You're just unraveling and unbinding things that you need to take care of to be able to be more free. It's the freedom that you've been working for. You just need to take the time to do that. All right, Taurus, that is all I have for you for August. I hope you find this reading to give you everything you were hoping for and more. Be sure to check out the link box below for a link towards the extended version of that for a small fee. And be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising for a more well-rounded reading if you so choose. Other than that, have a wonderful month and we'll see you in the next video.